So recently, there was a visit by the French President Emmanuel Macron, who visited the DRC, and he gave a press conference where he spoke next to the DRC president about the recent violence or uprise of the violence from M23 in the Congo. And he had a lot of interesting statements. But one of the things that he said, which really points to me at least, to the involvement of Kagame in his support and Rwanda support behind M23. And he didn't say this meaning to admit to this, but him saying this, trying to point the finger at the DRC's leadership, sort of exposed this. So he said that since 1994, and it's not France's fault, I'm sorry to say in such blunt terms, you have not been able to restore the sovereignty, neither military nor security nor administrative, of your country. This is also a reality. We must not look for culprits outside this affair. And this is what he said in giving his speech. Now, in 1994, we know that Kagame became the president of Rwanda after the Rwandan genocide took place. And we know that he has been using the Congo to funnel resources out of the Congo and enrich Rwanda, specifically, as you've heard on previous shows where Baba Macron has talked about Rwanda being one of the leading exporters of gold, yet they don't have the gold mines to back it up. So where are they getting this gold from? Where they're getting it from? The Congo. Now, M23 has recently been found, due to a UN report that was done, an investigation that was done. They found evidence that points directly to, or that shows the involvement of this group in the Congo that has been trying to keep this destabilization going so that they can control the Goma region. And now you have these Western countries that are coming in that are trying to offer so-called aid, a lot of which is just pennies on the dollar that they're throwing back at the Congo, because it's nothing compared to the amount of money that they're looting out of the country. So you have France, who's pledging to give $34 million in support to people in the Goma region, but it's just a drop in the bucket compared to, we know, the amount of wealth that they've taken out of the country. So knowing that, the United States, who has tried to be verbal about, quote unquote, Rwanda's involvement with M23, yet they continue to support Kagame. So, these people are speaking out of both sides of their neck, and they're telling people that, on one hand, here you have a country that's guilty of this, but on the other hand, you're not actually sanctioning the country, and you're not condemning them for these actions by going in and supporting the Congo in this fight. This is the same country, United States, who is physically supporting a non-NATO country, physically and financially supporting a non-NATO country right now in Ukraine to stave off what they're calling a illegal Russian invasion, even though we know why Russia is in Ukraine, which they're trying to defend their sovereignty as a country, because the United States is trying to expand NATO there. But when it comes to the situation in the Congo, when they can clearly see and have evidence that Rwanda is actually illegally occupying the Congo region, there's not that same support given. And I think, well, we know the reason why that is because destabilization allows these Western countries to be able to control the resources. One of the articles that Baba Macron mentioned that was written by Gray Zone is an excellent article that talks about how they're trying to soften a lot of the laws around mining in the Congo. They're trying to get them to change laws like child labor laws, slave laws, different mining regulations that protect people from being exploited. They're trying to get them to loosen up these laws so that they can go in and get the resources out of the country, like cobalt, like copper, like zinc. And they've always taken the uranium out of the Congo. So, these people, once again, they say one thing and it's pure propaganda and lies. On one end, they're saying, we need to have a greener planet, and we need to have cleaner energy, and we need to stop global warming and stop mining for fossil fuels, trying to force other African countries to stop being able to benefit from their resources. But then they want to increase mining efforts in the Congo so that they can pad their pockets with all of the resources needed to power electric vehicles and everything else.
Let me just say a few things about the visit of the French President Macron, which this is his 18th visit to Africa. And he visited 4 countries, Gabon, Angola, the Republic of Congo, which we used to call Congo Brazzaville because the capital is in Brazzaville, and the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. And this comes after he gave a speech saying that France needed to reset its relationship with Africa. Now, what's driving, this, what I said, beware of strangers bearing hegemonic gifts wrapped in new packaging. Because basically that's all it is. We see this with the four phases of white supremacy. He's trying to refine French neocolonialism to make it more effective. They have come under attack, France has, and have been forced out of the French military, out of the Central African Republic, Mali, and Burkina Faso. And most recently, this past week, Burkina Faso said that they were ending a 1961 treaty, military alliance treaty, that they had, with France. They've previously requested that the ambassador of France leave. So France had to pull its military out of those 3 countries. Now it still has 6,000 troops in several countries, including its leading neo-colony, Cote d'Ivoire, in Senegal, of course, Djibouti. Everybody has a base in Djibouti, even Japan. So I don't know what they're doing in Djibouti, prostituting the land, I guess, for money. But as these countries have pivoted away from France, some of them have moved towards Russia in terms of their security, in terms of their weapons. And this is a major problem. France, probably more than any other country on the European continent, is heavily dependent upon Africa in order to keep France from becoming one of the world's largest ghettos. So these are very desperate times, particularly in the face of the war in Ukraine, where at least 21 African nations refused to back the UN resolution condemning Russia for what they call an invasion. Russia calls it a special military operation, whatever you want to call it. The way I look at it is the United States sent its troops and weapons thousands of miles to defend what it called its interest in Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, other places. Russia is trying to defend its interests right on its border. So everyone who is condemning Russia, but who failed to condemn the United States for its military forays and its invasions of numerous countries, is an absolute hypocrite. But this war has caused many countries, including South Africa, which just finished military naval drills with Russia and China. to think more independently. And of course, this is the reason why Kwame Nkrumah became one of the leaders of the non-aligned movement. He had this concept called positive neutrality, which African countries have a right to decide, who they want to have different types of alliances with. The interesting thing is this: the very same week, well, actually, the week before the Russian and Chinese and South African naval drills began, the United States had a military operation going on in East Africa. In Kenya, and I can't remember the other countries now that they were in, and they have further military games and programs set up. One of them is called African Lion, of which Ghana is one of the major participants in, and I forgot what the other one is called now, but we have that information posted on our Facebook page. But it's okay for the United States to conduct war games with countries. The United States, which, by the way, has 750 bases across this planet. It's okay for them, but they want to control who can and who can't cooperate with Russia and China. But it's really all about. And this is why the young people, in Burkina Faso, in Mali, right, and we saw the protests against Macron in the DRC. This is one of the most positive signs I see in the African world right now, because in my opinion, Africa's the majority of the population on the African continent is 25 and under. Africa has the youngest population in the world. This makes young African people the most important demographic in the world. And there's a mad scramble, not only to control the resources, but to control the minds of young African people and continue to make them servants of North Atlantic imperialism. So these are very positive signs. And I expect that the psychic warfare on the African mind, the continental African mind, will escalate the same way as they engaged in warfare, both physical and psychic, against what they consider to be the most dangerous demographic on the planet in the 1970s. And these were young Black people, young African Americans, young people of African descent in the United States. So, this is really what's going on. It's still, nothing has changed since the original scramble for Africa. It's just taking place, in different ways via different means now, than what happened when they sat down in Berlin between November of 1884 and February of 1885. So that's why Macron is there, and it's very interesting, of course. His conversation, with the Congolese president regarding the deaths of millions, but by some estimates, 5 million Africans, between 3 and 5 million Africans have died in the Eastern Congo since the Rwanda genocide in 1994, which spread over into the Congo. And at the same time as the electronics industry was expanding and needed a mineral called coltan, columbite tantalite, which powers cell phones and computers and iPads and all of these types of devices. All of a sudden, in these two provinces in the Congo, everyone already knew that the Katanga, where Lumumba was killed, where they got uranium to build nuclear weapons. Everyone knew that, and of course, they're very rich in copper and titanium and germanium, other minerals, cobalt. They already knew that Katanga was rich, but the Kivus, North and South Kivu, now are probably the most valuable landmass on the planet. Okay. You know, there are very few places they compete with it. Of course, Russia is very rich in minerals, and that's part of why they want to control Russia also. So, you know, we see some hope there, and we have to hope that what emerges, you know, are young Africans who operate, you know, with the consciousness and in the spirit of people like Amilcar Cabral and Thomas Sankara and Chris Hani and others. So, you know, I think that we just needed to keep that in mind is the real reason why Macron made this particular visit.